So I want to start out by just reading a definition of linguistic determinism. So linguistic determinism, defined by Oxford References, is a range of views in which our thinking is seen as being shaped by language. Now, the more and more you learn about this topic, you're going to slowly develop your own definition of it. So for me, my understanding is that it's the idea that language determines how we perceive the world, and it shapes our knowledge of that world. So a good example of this would be generational abbreviations and slang. So in my generation, one of the main forms of communication we use is texting. And one of the most common abbreviations we use is LOL, meaning laugh out loud. Now, if I sent a text saying LOL to one of my friends, they probably would not bat an eye, they wouldn't ask me what it meant, they wouldn't be confused. But if I said this to, say, my 85-year-old grandfather, he would probably be pretty confused. But you have to remember that his generation also had slang and abbreviations that we probably would not understand. So when I first started learning about linguistic determinism, I thought a good example was that other languages have words that English doesn't. So while this is a very fun fact, it really doesn't exemplify linguistic determinism, because you could just explain to me what the word meant and I would understand. That has no bearing on how I understand language. So our knowledge of the world changes based on where, when, and how we grew up. And all of these factors make up culture. Culture affects everything from the language we speak to our favorite foods, the music we listen to, everything. And since culture determines language, language determines knowledge. And that is such a big part of understanding linguistic determinism. So as humans, we unconsciously want to think that our ideas are similar, if not the same, as everyone else's. And this is just not the case. It's a very difficult idea to think past our own knowledge of the world and try to think about how other people see it. So another good example of linguistic determinism is from the Very Well Mind article written by Rachel Green. And in this article, she describes the research of Benjamin Whorf and his colleague, who were the two people that founded this theory of linguistic determinism. So when Whorf was studying all of this, he found his favorite example to be the time between different cultures. So in our culture, we use verbs that are conjugated to past, present, and future tense to describe time. But in other cultures, like the Hopi culture in Arizona, they use nouns like hour and day to describe the same thing that we use verbs for. So as individuals, we want to think that this topic of time is universally thought of the same way across all cultures. But this example tells us that that's just not the case. It's linguistic determinism. Their language is different, and that determines their knowledge, and the same for us. So to put it simply, linguistic determinism is the idea that every person has their own ideas and understanding of the world, and that's based on language. This is a monumental topic and also very confusing. So to further understand this, we need to look further into the cultural differences that we might think are mundane or pointless, but that is what we're going to find linguistic determinism in. Thank you.